If you're trying to figure out where to live along the Emerald Coast, Navarre is one of these places that quietly keeps coming up over and over in conversations with relocating buyers. It's close enough to the beaches, close enough to the bases, and it's close enough to Destin. But it feels completely different once you're actually living here. So today I thought it'd be fun to do something just a little bit different. Instead of just talking about Navarre from a map or even a market perspective, we're going to show you what life here might actually look like if you chose this to be your home. Right now, my partner agent AJ is standing in a property right here in Navarre that's currently listed at $615,000. And that price point happens to represent a very common budget that we see from buyers relocating to this area. You can definitely get in less expensive and you can definitely pay more out here in Navarre. But we're going to break this down into 3 different things that I want to make sure we're going over. What homes in this price range actually look like right here in Navarre, what daily life here in Navarre feels like, and how does Navarre compare to some of the other areas that buyers will typically consider. So let's go to AJ on the ground at this property. Where are you and what are we looking at today?
We are at 7224 Riverview Road here in Holly by the Sea. It's a little bit windy, but the sun is out and it's amazing. And I'm going to take you to see this beautiful house. Yes, we've got the car running because Grim isn't in there, but check this neighborhood out. Of course, here's a beautiful house. And this is such a quiet street. We are probably 15 minutes to the beach. No, I think we're closer to 10 minutes to the beach. Yes, it's trash day, sorry. I looked it up earlier. Actually, we're about 10 minutes to the beach, 15 minutes to Hurlburt Field, and there's someplace else we were like 15 minutes from. But basically, you're in a very nice and quiet residential space. And you're only like 10 minutes away from the bazillion amenities offered by Holly by the Sea. So very great, quiet location with quick access to everything, especially the beach, which Navarre has some of the best beach accesses along the entire Emerald Coast. They haven't gotten crazy privatized yet. Hopefully that never happens. But this house is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, and it has a little like den area as well, and a dedicated dining space with a kind of eat-in kitchen situation as well. And the floor plan is basically split 3 ways. And it's got this amazing enclosed pool and hot tub with a big yard, and there's a double gate. So it's pretty much perfect. And that's why a lot of people consider Navarre over, like 30 minutes east of here heading to Destin, because for this same price point, you're not going to get anything even close to this. You're going to get a wonky floor plan with a house that's crazy old and has like 0 yard space.
Thanks, AJ. I want to break down what the difference in pricing is going to look like along the Emerald Coast, and we're just going to use Destin as sort of the benchmarker. So I want to compare how Navarre compares to Destin, both in land and square footage differences, as well as the types of properties that you can get. Also talk a little bit about the different types of construction, newer homes, older homes, and things like that. So here around the Emerald Coast, what $600,000 can buy you can look dramatically different depending on where you land. Let's start with Destin. In that price point, you might get a smaller home, let's say around 1,500 to 1,700 square feet, 3 beds and 2 baths. This is usually going to be an older property that is fixed up, or a newer property that's just starting to get a little bit dated. The footprint of the single-family homes in Destin will usually be a bit smaller, landing in about the 0.1 acre to 0.25 or quarter of an acre in most cases. For those of you that are looking at condos, this is going to look a little bit different in Destin as well. You're typically looking closer to 1,000 to 1,300 square feet, 2 bed, 2 baths with a solid view of the water, but it's generally a little bit further off in the distance. And a lot of times you'll have to cross a road in order to go visit that beach. And sometimes you can get right on the water as well in this price point, but it's generally going to be a partial or a side view. You can even get into the iconic Emerald Grand, which are those big buildings you usually see right when you come into Destin. In Navarre, on the other hand, that same budget often converts to more structure and more land, structure meaning the actual property itself. And so at $600,000, you're typically looking at 4 beds, 3 bathrooms around 2,500 square feet with a pool. But for those of you that don't want a pool, no problem. The same price point will get you 500 to 700 square feet more and usually another bedroom. So you might not have to sacrifice if you don't want to splash in a pool. And if you'd like to be closer to the water, you can elect for a smaller home, say 1,600 to 1,800 square feet. This is going to land you at the 3-bed, 2-bath range, but you're generally going to be right on a canal or the bay. So you definitely won't get Gulf front at this price, but you can get in a canal or a bay, so that this is the price point where waterfront starts to become a little bit real. Now, the lot sizes on the homes in Navarre are considerably larger than Destin as well. Remember the 0.1 to quarter of an acre? Well, here in Navarre, you're looking at quarter of an acre to half an acre pretty consistently. And it's not uncommon to find properties at 1 to 2 acres in this same price point. And if you want to be in a condo, you can absolutely do that here in Navarre as well. For the same price, you're generally getting a full panoramic Gulf view or Gulf of America view with 2 beds, 2 baths, and around 1,200 square feet. So the big difference here, Navarre versus Destin, is Navarre is going to have bigger homes, bigger yards, and typically it's going to lean a little bit newer on the age of the home, newer construction, and neighborhoods designed for people actually living here full time, whereas Destin kind of has a little bit of a short-term or second home feel to it in a lot of places. But the house itself is only one piece of the picture. And before we get into the lifestyle and the other things I want to talk about, let's go ahead and see what the inside of one of these homes in Navarre actually looks like, and take you back to AJ where she's waiting to show you inside the home.
I guess you do want to see the inside of the house, huh? Okay, I'll flip it around. Let's go check it out. All right, first of all, let me show you how beautiful even just the front is. Very picturesque. You can tell this house is basically new. I think it's a 2023, I want to say. I should know this. It's our listing and I'm the one that helped them buy it. So funny. Anyways, wait till you see this floor plan. It just flows so well. All right, so this is that den that I was telling you about. And even for a den, it's super spacious. And can you look at this. I don't know whether to call this like a love seat, a chair. I don't know. I want it. I might see if she wants to sell it. I don't know where it would go in my house, but I want it. Through this hallway, then we have the living space and the kitchen, and this is the formal dining area. How beautiful is that light? Lots of natural light. Okay, I'm going to show you the bedroom over here. And this is what I meant when I said that, like 3-way split. So here's one of the bedrooms. Closet here. And you're not going to believe how big this bathroom is. This is just a guest bathroom. Look at it. This thing is massive. Okay, now you can access the living room either through here or you can come this way. And here we have the laundry room, and that's gonna be your garage. Not this door, that's storage, but that's your garage. But the dogs are out there right now, so we're not gonna go out there. You get this cute cut-in area. This would be perfect for like a hutch or a coffee nook if you wanted, or you know, something a little bit stronger depending on your taste. This house has so much storage. It was one of the things that the now sellers really loved about this house whenever we were touring various properties. And here's the kitchen. I don't know if you guys can pick up that noise or not, but it's the fountain part of the pool. I love it so much. Great size kitchen. Very open floor plan. You can be in here cooking, doing the dishes, whatever it is you need to be doing, and still be part of the conversation with whoever's in the living room. I also love that she turned this little nook into just like a kind of hanging out nook right here. A lot of folks would make this like a eat-in, like a breakfast nook or whatever, but to me it just looks so much more, I don't know, intimate and adorable, and I love her sense of style. And here is the living room. Super spacious, absolutely love it. You've got fans throughout, which is really nice because typically a new home isn't going to come with fans. So you get a slightly older home, you know, just a couple years, and you get to have all the fixtures that don't typically come with it. We got trade ceilings here. And this room is huge, just huge. This is the master, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. And it's the master bath. You've got a linen closet here. A super wide dual vanity. And as Mongo would say, a stand-in shower as opposed to a sit-in shower. And I love these zero entry ones. Typically, we usually see these in like $1 million plus homes. We don't see these a whole lot under $1 million. So to see a zero entry shower in this price point is pretty awesome. I love them. They're so good, you know, because if this is your forever home, then you gotta imagine at some point, you know, you're gonna be a little bit older and things are gonna become a bit more treacherous, or maybe you're like me and you were in the Army and you've got bad ankles because of that, and you know, everything's treacherous already at, well, I'm not gonna tell you how old I am. Water closet, absolutely mandatory. Y'all know, listen, if you've been watching our channel for any length of time, you need this in the master. Need it. It's a requirement. This, and speaking of needs, this is what I need in my house. I still don't have curtains up and they make such a difference. Moving on. Okay, so we had the one bedroom way over here in this corner. Then we have the master that takes up this wing. And now, check this out. Here's our three-way split. So we've got more storage here. And then we have the remaining 2 bedrooms. Great size. Like, look at how much space you have in here. And again, another walk-in closet. We've got LVP flooring and carpeting, and another really good size bathroom. Everything in this house is great size. The bedrooms, the bathrooms, the kitchen. Wait till you see the yard. Oh my gosh. What they've done out back is just incredible. You see that? All of the closets, none of them are these like long, wide nonsense. No, walk-in closets, all of them. This is the house. If I was in the market for Navarre, I would buy this house in a freaking heartbeat. Part of me is like, why don't I just move back to Navarre? Would you look at this? I mean, really, this pool is fantastic. And it's all enclosed, completely enclosed. So you can still have all these beautiful trees without having to worry about them dumping their leaves or pines, the pine straw or whatever, into your pool. Look how clean this thing is. You've got the great sunbathing ledge here, very important. And this is actually a really great size pool. You got the deep end over here, and of course the hot tub. Oh my gosh. And I love the fencing that they've gone with. Absolutely beautiful, and they have taken such good care of the yard. And you have all this space. I mean, if you have dogs, they're gonna love it back there. You have plenty of like manicured space for the ambiance, and then still plenty of space for playing if you've got kids or dogs. I know I said it earlier, but it really just is such a difference between what you can get in Navarre and what life can look like. I mean, you can be out here sipping your coffee or, you know, tea or whatever beverage that you like, knowing that you are 10, 15 minutes to the beach, and a beach that has tons of access points. Like, you're not gonna run out of parking. You can get there almost any time of day. You might have to drive a little bit further, but you're gonna have access to it. It's completely different than, say, Destin or definitely 30A. It's just absolutely incredible.
Thanks, AJ. The day-to-day life in Navarre versus Destin, completely different. So you've got to know that, because your lifestyle is going to make or break how you experience the Emerald Coast and how you enjoy living here. I'll get into who this is best for here in a little bit, but I want to talk about some major points here, and I'll start with the beach access. In Destin, beach access is going to be a little bit tougher. It's harder to find parking. It's harder to get to the beach. There's these smaller parking lots, unless, of course, you're going to Henderson Beach State Park. then there's a ton of parking, and so it's not usually an issue. Then the beach is a lot more crowded there. It's a lot more dense with people. Navarre is a complete flip side of that. You're going to go there. There's plenty of parking, lots of different parking lots to go into over a pretty long stretch. And the beach usually does not feel that packed. There are definitely seasons where it will feel busier than others, but you can go out there and actually feel pretty alone depending on how far out you'd like to go and how far away you'd like to park from the nice bathrooms and things like that. Now, getting to the beaches or getting in and around the town, those are completely different as well. In Destin, you've got the tourist traffic, and sure, Navarre gets a little bit of that too, but Navarre separates it. In Navarre, you generally have a small footprint of maybe about a mile where the traffic starts to build up, and it's centered right around the bridge. So getting onto the bridge, a little bit painful from time to time, but you're not generally waiting very long. In Destin, on the other hand, you could be sitting in stop and go traffic pretty consistently, and sometimes you're at a complete standstill if there's a wreck or something like that happens. Not to say that Navarre is completely void of having that scenario happen. It just happens a lot more in Destin than it does in Navarre. The infrastructure just seems to be a little bit better in Navarre, and I think most of that's because it's got less people. And then, of course, there's the crowds all around, not just at the beach, at your favorite local restaurants, your shopping centers, just anything. You're going to have a lot less crowd in Navarre versus Destin. Destin's going to be packed because it's a 14,000 person town that shoots up to $100,000 or 100,000 people. I got money on my mind overnight. And even things like your day-to-day rhythm gets a little bit easier in Navarre as well. Because of all of that busyness and the traffic and everything, even small things like going grocery shopping is a little bit easier in Navarre. In fact, Navarre's got a lot of different options. Don't get me wrong, Destin's got plenty of options too, but they're spread out quite far. Whereas in Navarre, you've got Aldi's, you've got multiple Publixes and multiple Walmarts. So you've got plenty of different places to go grocery shopping. The same is true of the shops. Here's where it flips a little bit. Destin's going to have a lot more shops and shopping centers, and Navarre's going to have a lot less, but Navarre's going to have the main ones that you need, and you can always travel into Destin whenever you'd like to go to one of those specialty shops. Not only are the daily errands a little bit more busy, but also the restaurant life. So if you like to go out and have date night with the lady or the dude in your life or whoever in your life, you're going to have to wait a little bit when you're in Destin. Whereas if you're in Navarre, even during peak season, you're not typically going to have any long waits. So you can enjoy things like TC's or Dewey Destin's, or my personal favorite, Slippery Mermaid, which is a great little sushi spot. You just have to be patient because they do take a little bit for really good sushi though, so it's totally worth the wait. Now, while we're on the subject of how long it takes to get around town in Destin, let's talk about some of the commute drives that you might have to worry about. Let's say that you're at one of the military installations, either Hurlburt Field or Eglin. The commute to Herbie, Hurlburt Field, is about 20 to 25 minutes into Navarre, and that makes it a staple town for military folks stationed at Hurlburt Field. That's why so many of them move out into Navarre. From Eglin, that drive's actually going to shoot up to about 35 to 40 minutes, which is why a lot of people that are stationed at Eglin will choose either Niceville or Crestview for a shorter commute. Then, of course, you've got the airports to worry about. Navarre's got a really cool advantage when it comes to the airports. They're smack dab in the center of the two biggest airports in our area, Pensacola and VPS, or the Destin-Fort Walton Beach Airport, which I always thought was really funny because it's not in Destin or Fort Walton Beach. It's kind of in Niceville, or right in between Niceville and Fort Walton Beach. But I'm getting off subject here. The cool thing with Navarre is you're literally centrally located. It's about 40 minutes to either one. Pensacola being an international airport, so if you travel internationally often, it's really nice to have that there. And VPS being a smaller, easier to handle airport that you can get in and out pretty quickly. In fact, I travel probably once per month on average, and I will generally get there about 20 minutes before my plane boards, and I'm through and on the plane like it's nothing. Both airports have a lot of options for flying, whether you want to go something on the less expensive side like Spirit or something like that, or Southwest. You've got those options at both locations. Now, they don't share all of the same options. I don't think Southwest, for instance, is in VPS, but you do have Allegiant over in VPS. So you can get these flights to Vegas or any cool spots all across the country direct for sometimes as low as $40. If we flip that script and you're living in Destin, the only one that really makes sense for you to go to regularly is the Valparaiso Airport, the VPS Airport. You can definitely get to the one in Panama City or Pensacola, and they even have a small one in the heart of Destin as well that has some smaller charters like JSX, for instance, which is kind of nice because it almost feels like you're flying like this step beneath private. It's a much smaller airplane. You're walking right out onto the tarmac to get onto the plane, but the locations they fly to are fairly limited, and so that makes it a little bit frustrating. So a lot of times if you're living in Destin, VPS is the one that makes the most sense because you're going to have to drive an hour either way if you're not flying out of VPS. And all of that zooms us into the overall feel of each area. Navarre feels like a residential community. It feels like where your family lives. It feels like where you go to visit grandma, where you visit your aunt and uncle. Destin, on the other hand, it could feel that way too if your aunt or uncle are partiers or they like the tourist or the high energy. That's the big difference. A residential feel in Navarre versus sort of a tourist, high energy action feeling in Destin. So now that we're zoomed in and we're talking about lifestyle, let's kind of talk about that a little bit more and expand on it. So let's go ahead and expand on the lifestyle just a little bit while we show you a lot of what Navarre has to offer. So the following footage you're going to be seeing as I speak is going to be about the Navarre area. So we've got a lot of different things happening in Navarre. I already talked about the parking situation and some of the traffic patterns, but Navarre's also got a pretty good fishing pier. And I think it's the longest pier along the Emerald Coast, and it's just a couple of bucks to walk down there. You can actually fish right off of this pier and even get temporary fishing status, so you don't actually have to go through the whole process if you're out of town and you don't want to get your full-blown fishing license. It's also great for great views and beautiful, beautiful sunsets and sunrises, and the occasional bird wants to walk up and say hi. So just make sure that if you see some of the large birds that are out there, because some of them are 3 and 4 feet tall, if you're a little bit worried or skittish around them, just give yourself a little bit of distance because they're not very shy. And of course, outside of the pier, you've got beaches, but you've got beaches in both areas. The big difference between the two beaches are the density, as I mentioned before, and also Navarre's got sort of a unique thing to it. If you're on the east side of the pier, or as you're looking at it, the left side, you've got a higher probability of seeing a lot of shells. Sand itself is not going to be shelly. It's not going to hurt your feet as you're walking. But if you like to collect shells or you want to take something home for a friend, or maybe your kids want to take something home, that is the place to do it. You're not going to see as many out in Destin. You'll see them, but they'll be smaller. They'll be chipped a little bit more. And in Navarre, you'll see these big whoppers of stuff out there. Now, both areas have parks. And in fact, Destin's got some pretty cool parks and sports complexes. But Navarre's got some pretty cool ones as well. In fact, they just put in this whole new one for the city of Navarre in general. It's right before you get to the bridge if you were headed east. So if you were headed from the Pensacola area east, look on your right side, right before the bridge, and you'll see this park. It's got a little water park thing area where it's like shooting water at the kids and stuff. It's also got a dry park area. It's got some great benches and some gazebos to sit under and have lunch or whatever you want to do, but it's right there, it's waterfront, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And the visitor center there is a great place to go if you're looking for something to do while you're in town. There's also plenty of other things to do with the kiddos. There's a wildlife conservation thing, or a turtle wildlife conservation thing. I've never actually been inside of it, but we have some footage of it inside, but it is pretty cool because they're rehabilitating turtles in there. There are some that are stuck in there for life, unfortunately, because they're injured or they won't make it out in the wild, but generally they're there to help out the turtles and then release them back out. They'll also be the ones out there protecting the turtles during hatching season from some of the tourists, because unfortunately, a lot of people, when they come down here, they don't know that they could actually be harming the turtles by, putting lights out there or, throwing sand over some of the holes that they're trying to make as they're digging out. There's a bunch of little things like that. So a lot of times they'll go out there and put tape around it to help them so they can go out into the world and, just live their lives. Part of the lifestyle in either town is the type of water you have access to. Navarre has one type of water that Destin doesn't, and that's the Sound. There's technically a harbor in Destin, so that is a little bit different as well. But the Sound is the less brackish water, less salty area right between the Gulf of America, the island, so Navarre Beach is on an island, and then there's another set of water between the mainland. That's called the Sound. So while Destin and Navarre both have the Gulf of America, they both have the powder white sands, they both have access to the bay, and they both have access to canals. The big difference is you also have the added function of the Sound, which is just a small benefit, but still a benefit nonetheless. And when it comes to getting on the water, Navarre is going to be massively cheaper in order to do so, especially if you're willing to be on a canal. There's a lot of them out there. In fact, they've built portions of Gulf Breeze that just has that. Now, I know Gulf Breeze is the town right next to Navarre, but we kind of lump them together because there's not that much difference between the two. So if we're comparing Navarre to Destin, just as a quick overview, we're going to have calmer beaches in Navarre, a little bit more energy in Destin. You're going to have a calmer and more relaxed local vibe in Navarre. It's going to be a little bit more high energy in Destin. You're going to have a lot fewer high-rise resorts in Navarre. You're going to have a lot more in Destin. And you're going to have a little bit more nature in Navarre that you can hit versus Destin. In fact, the slower pace of life in Navarre is actually what attracts most buyers to it. So that's one of the big questions you've got to ask yourself. Do you want to be in front of all of the energy, or are you looking for something a little bit more relaxed for your day-to-day lifestyle? So now that we've gone over the lifestyle in both of them, you've probably got a pretty good idea on whether the lifestyle fits what you're looking for anyway. But let's talk about who we see most often moving to Navarre versus Destin. So when it comes to who's the most ideal person in Navarre, this won't be an exhaustive list, but what I typically see that Navarre is best known for, best for in general, is military families, particularly those stationed at Hurlburt Field, remote workers, but that works kind of well in both areas, buyers that want yards or a little bit more breathing room, and buyers who want a quieter environment. You know, Navarre used to be called the Emerald Coast best kept secret for a reason. It's a little bit more chill, a little bit quieter. Whereas Destin, on the other hand, is going to be a little bit better for people that are looking for the energy, as I said before, the nightlife, the shopping, the tourism lifestyle, and walkable entertainment. That's definitely something that Navarre is missing a little bit. Navarre's got some nightlife. It's got Juana's Pagodas. It's got Gray's Tap Room, but it is a tap room that doesn't really feel like a club or nightlife. It seems more like a drinking beer kind of place. And then, of course, it's got Stripes. And what it's lacking is that walkable lifestyle. It's not really the place that you go out to walk around. You can do that in some of the areas, but it's going to be fairly limited. Bottom line is Navarre's not trying to be Destin. It's a completely different lifestyle entirely. And that's really the key difference that buyers start to discover once they start exploring the Emerald Coast. Every area has a completely different personality. You've probably heard me say that 600 times if you're a returning viewer. Thank you for that, by the way, if you are a returning viewer. Destin offers energy and proximity to tourism and the harbor. Freeport offers growth and space inland. Navarre sits at a really interesting middle ground. It's coastal access with a much more reasonable and residential pace of life. If you're trying to figure out which of these areas actually fits your lifestyle, that's usually where a lot of buyers start to feel stuck. That's why the first step we take with our relocating buyers is what we call a relocation clarity call. We can help you narrow down your focus and narrow down which areas actually make sense before you ever start touring homes. If that sounds like something you'd like help with, I've got all of my contact information right here, as well as a link directly to my calendar down below. So you can jump in there, have an appointment, we can have that clarity relocation call at your convenience. And if you're exploring the Emerald Coast from out of state, make sure that you grab our Emerald Coast relocation guide in the description and in this QR code right here. Actually, is where I'm gonna put it, right here. This is a free guide. We don't even ask for your email, I don't believe. And if we do, we're not sending you guys anything. It's just to help you guys out. It's going to break down major cities, commute patterns, lifestyle differences, just a bunch of other information to help you start narrowing your focus a little bit. And if you're thinking about moving to the Emerald Coast anytime in the future, even if you're a year out, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we do videos every single week, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, so that we can showcase off to you what it's like to live in this area. Now, I briefly mentioned Freeport earlier. If you're curious about what Freeport is all about, then check out this video right here, and I'll see you guys next week.